packed stadium, absolute sellout this meeting. And the very tall figure in the middle is the Norwegian Kvalheim. All in white. Off they go. Tony Steining's beginning to show his mop of hair. There's the first of the barriers. Pretty solid they are too, as we saw Baumgarten rocket over one. So 7 laps to go. Tony Steining's Bristol AC. Made the final in Montreal, ran well, ran in 11th place. Malinowski content to be back in 3rd at the moment. Peter Griffiths, Andy Holden, in fact, wearing the Tipton vest, 2 Tipton men there, Peter Griffiths and Andy Holden. It was the taller figure. We ought to be able to recognise the sort of style, the pecking style of Andy, but it's more easily recognisable as he approaches a barrier. There he is, there's the skip. Comes into the water jump, 1 foot on, pivot over, drive off, land with 1 foot in the water if you can, 1 foot clear onto the track. Tony Steining's then coming around. Watch Andy Holden skip at it, and he does again. John Bycourt in the dark vest coming up just on the shoulder of Malinowski. And number 5, John Wild of Derby and the RAF. And Tony Steinings takes them on now. Right at the back of the field, Rod Pitt, an Australian who's been running with Croydon AC, been over here a couple of years and settled down. 2 Croydon boys. Chris Stebbings also wearing number 10, runs for the Croydon Athletic Club. Andy Holden. John Bycourt has joined him in 2nd place. Malinowski's moved up to 3rd as Tony Steinings moves back to 4th, and the big tall Norwegian is in 5th, Kvalheim. John Bycourt, now 30, most experienced runner at this distance, did some pre-Olympic training out in Mexico City and trained with the Poles. He's a good friend of Malinowski, get on well together, and there they are running together now. Andy Holden drops back about 3 or 4 meters. Kvalheim, very tall man coming in and beginning to show, wearing 5, John Wild. Easy rhythm into that barrier. Very little dip of the body from Malinowski. Watch him stride towards it as John Bycourt drops back. Here's the pole in 1. Kvalheim follows him in 2. John Bycourt back in 3. Andy Holden in 4. Absolutely smooth transition. No break in his stride whatsoever. And it's the break in the stride that really takes the sap out of these runners in an event which is a middle distance race with barriers meant to break up. Now, Malinowski looked around there to see if anybody was going to take up the lead. And he looked as though he didn't want to lead. John Bycourt's come back into contention, wearing number 6, and overtaken Kvalheim as Malinowski looks around to see who's going to be there. Andy Holden still up. Kvalheim, the very tall man, should be able to negotiate these barriers quite simply because of his height, but in fact he makes them look a little bit clumsy. Watch Malinowski drive himself off this barrier, push away, never really extend his legs over it. He really should go over it with economy, and he does. Malinowski comes around, and as he comes into the home straight this time, he's got 1 more barrier, and then he'll see the lap marker indicating there are 4 laps to go. And there's a couple of men looking around to see who's going to be with them. Tony Steinings, wearing number 3, beginning to come back in 4th place at the moment. John Bycourt overtakes Malinowski, takes the lead. Malinowski's still comfortable, then Kvalheim, then Tony Steinings, then Andy Holden, then John Wild. Bringing up the rear, Chris Stebbings from Croydon. Into the back straight. This little knot of 4 breaking away. Andy Holden can't stay with them. John Bycourt, who gave up his teaching career in South London to go away to train in Mexico City for the benefit of altitude training. A British international now, I think, for about a decade. Eliminated in his Olympic heat, but has a personal best of 8:22.8. And Tony Steinings coming back in. Tony Steinings, Bristol, home from an American university, University of Western Kentucky last year, where a lot of those Bristol boys were. And these 4 breaking well clear now. Tony Steinings, John Bycourt, Malinowski coming up on the inside. then Kvalheim, and then a 10-yard gap as they come up with 3 laps to go. Bit of a stutter from Stainings as he took that hurdle. John Bycourt actually takes them very smoothly. He and Malinowski don't dip at the waist at all. They really stride towards the hurdle. They've got an innate sense of where that hurdle's going to come. Without it breaking their rhythm, no staccato steps in front of it. They swing right over it. Malinowski and John Bycourt, and Tony Stainings coming up and back. He's ebbing and flowing in this race, as he tends to do, can come very well towards the end of the race, and here he is with 2.5 laps to go. Malinowski pushing on a little bit. Bycourt now 3 yards back. Good water jump from Malin. Oh, and Bycourt went. He really landed on an ankle, and he didn't seem to be able to take his weight as he landed off that. And a lot of pain on John Bycourt's face there, and I think he's going off the track. I think perhaps he twisted an ankle on landing, or is he holding a knee? Malinowski breaks away, unaware of what's gone on behind him, the incident, and Kvalheim, it is, in second place, about 7 yards down, and then Tony Stainings. Andy Holden back in 4th, and the other Tipton Harrier, Peter Griffiths, in 5th place. Then the 2 Croydon boys. Well, there's a comfortable lead in this, and we can let them go for a little while we have our first look at Jeff Capes.
Jeff Capes, the very first put he's making.
Comfortable put of about 20 metres, that look from Jeffrey. So Malinowski it is, into the water jump and over it clear with a very commanding lead now. Kvalheim in second place, but about 12 metres back. And then Tony Stainings, Andy Holden in danger of being caught by his clubman. Malinowski sensing that he's home and away, really beginning to pour it on. And he'll hear the bell. And Kvalheim doesn't have any speed to match that. He's settled into an easy pace. Tony Stainings in 3rd, well clear of Andy Holden. And Tony Stainings, the shorter man, he's only 5'5", choosing to step onto the barrier and off. Malinowski charging down the back straight. His lead now about 30 metres. He's going to be outside 8:20, so his own all-comers record is safe. Down to him back in 1975. But a good win from this world-class pole. The Olympic silver medalist looks over his shoulder and starts his lap of honour down the home straight. Always a welcome visitor. Malinowski takes the tape there, looks behind him to see that Kvalheim is 50, 60 yards back, takes the tape now. Tony Stainings in 3rd, and it's Peter Griffiths, the Tipton Harrier, in 4th place. Andy Holden in 5th. As Malinowski eases round the back straight to a very appreciative crowd.
When you look at Malinowski, you think he might be a Scotsman, which he almost is, because I think his mother comes from Musselburgh. Married to a Pole, obviously. And Malinowski obviously enjoys, too, his visits to Britain and obviously to Edinburgh.
An official time of 8:25, and that's a Scottish all-comers record, not a British all-comers record. So it's the fastest time ever run in Scotland, 8:25, the actual time to be confirmed. So a good but comfortable run for the Olympic silver medalist, Malinowski.